If history were a high-stakes casino game, then the hand dealt in 1644 had odds so absurd they were almost unthinkable. Let's rewind to the mid-17th century. In the frozen forests of Northeast Asia, there lived a tribe called the Yurkin, later the Manchus. Their entire population? Just a few 100,000. Their fighting force? Barely 100,000 warriors. South of the Great Wall stood the Ming Empire, a sophisticated civilization with gunpowder, a vast bureaucracy, and over 100 million people. The ratio was 1 to 1,000. Imagine a tiny town in Wyoming trying to conquer and rule the entire European continent. And not just conquer. You need these 100,000 warriors to rule those 100 million people. For 268 years, you need to force them to shave their hair, wear your clothes, and bow to your throne. How would you even pull it off? In human history, such gambles usually end one way. The conquerors get absorbed, or they get drowned by the angry masses. The Mongols tried it, and were driven out in less than a century. But the Manchus, they succeeded. They built a super empire larger than modern China. They controlled 30% of the world's GDP. This was the Qing Dynasty. But here is the hard truth. This is no inspirational tale. It is a chilling case study in control technology. To solve this impossible equation, they designed a governing system that was too perfect. Internally, it was rock solid. It froze an entire civilization in time. But externally, it was as brittle as glass. Today, we take this machine apart. We will see how it ran with terrifying precision, and how it dragged an ancient civilization into the abyss. In 1644, Dowager's iron cavalry charged into Beijing. They felt no joy, only fear. The rulers knew the math. 100,000 conquerors would be swallowed by 100 million subjects in an instant. To survive, they needed to run a program, a total psychological format. Step 1. Taming the body. Many think the Q order, shaving the forehead, was just fashion. No, it was a compliance test. In Confucian culture, your hair is a gift from your ancestors. Cutting it is like castration. It is trampling on your heritage. The Qing logic was brutal but simple. If you won't shave your hair, you still think you are a civilized man, and you think I am a barbarian. So, the massacres began. Yangzhou, Jiading. The Qing drew a red line in blood. Choose your dignity or choose your life. When every man in China finally wore the Q, physical submission became spiritual surrender. Step 2. The monopoly on violence. The Qing built a state within a state, the 8 banners. In core cities like Beijing, Nanjing, and Xi'an, they built walled Manchu cities. These people did not farm. They did not trade. The state fed them to do one job: surveillance. It was a military caste system, ensuring violence remained in the hands of the 1%. Step 3. The intellectual castration. This was the most toxic move. For the Han elites, the Qing used a carrot and stick strategy. The carrot, the civil service exam. Emperor Cixi offered high positions and dignity. The message was, work for me, and I will let you be rich. The stick, the Literary Inquisition, in the era of Qianlong. A scholar wrote a poem about the wind blowing through a book. The court decided it mocked them for being illiterate. The result? His corpse was dug up and mutilated. His grandchildren were beheaded. Under this pressure, the spine of the intellectuals snapped. Elites stopped discussing politics. They stopped thinking about practical science. They buried their heads in ancient texts. The empire's best minds were turned into administrative robots. Fast forward to the late 18th century, the Qianlong era. This was the peak. But it was also the beginning of the trap. Bug number 1, The hungry GDP. The Qing did one thing right. They introduced corn and sweet potatoes. This caused a population explosion from a few million to 300 million. Emperor Qianlong was proud. He called it a prosperous age. But he didn't see the dead end. The population tripled. The land did not. Technology did not. The result was extreme involution. Per capita, land collapsed. In England, at this time, a farm worker could feed a family of 5 and drink beer. In the Qing Golden Age, a Chinese farmer worked all year just to stay alive. One bad harvest meant selling his children. It was a starving prosperity. The massive GDP was built on endless cheap starving labor. Human life was cheaper than machines. So, there was zero incentive to industrialize. Bug number 2, systemic cancer. If poverty is a chronic disease, corruption is a heart attack. We must mention one name, Hessian, one of the most corrupt officials in recorded history. In 1799, when his home was raided, the officials were terrified. His assets were valued at 800 million to 1.1 billion silver taels. The empire's annual revenue was only 70 million. One man stole 15 years of the empire's total income. People said, Hessian falls, the emperor eats full. But Hessian was just a symptom. Positions were sold. Bribes were standard. All the costs were passed down to those 300 million starving peasants. Just as Qianlong boasted of his greatness, the White Lotus Rebellion broke out. It burned through 9 provinces. The bubble of the Golden Age had burst. In 1793, this should have been the turning point. The British envoy, Lord Macartney, arrived. He brought globes, telescopes, muskets, and steam engine models. History laughs at Emperor Qianlong for his arrogance. He famously said, "We possess all things. We have no need for barbarian goods." But if we look closer, we find a terrifying truth. It wasn't arrogance. It was fear. Did Qianlong know nothing of the world? No. He had French missionaries in his court. He even exchanged letters with King Louis XV of France. But in 1793, the same year Macartney arrived, news came from France that froze Qianlong's blood. The successor of his pen pal, Louis XVI, was dragged to the guillotine by his own people. For the Son of Heaven, this was a nightmare. He didn't see trade. He saw a plague called revolution. And then the British arrived, refusing to kneel, talking about free trade and open ports. To Qianlong, this wasn't business. These were British Jacobins coming to teach the Han people how to rebel. So, his choice was extremely rational. Lock the doors, ideally weld them shut. For a conqueror regime of only 100,000 elites, contact between Han people and foreigners was deadlier than poverty. To save the throne, they had to sacrifice the future. He understood the power of the steam engine. He just knew the social change behind it would kill him. The doors were locked. But capital has a way of seeping through the cracks. In the early 19th century, global trade hit a snag. The West was addicted to Chinese tea, but the Chinese small farm economy needed nothing from England. Not their wool, not their pianos. The result? A one-way flow of silver. The world's silver drained into China. England was going broke. To reverse this, the British East India Company deployed the ultimate weapon, opium. It was asymmetric warfare. Tea is a habit. Opium is a chemical chain. In just a few decades, the tide turned. Silver began to flood out of China like a hemorrhage. The economic impact was nuclear. Chinese farmers paid taxes in silver, but sold grain for copper coins. Silver became scarce. The exchange rate doubled. Suddenly, the farmers' tax burden doubled overnight. Farmers went bankrupt. Soldiers became junkies. The treasury ran dry. Emperor Daoguang panicked. He sent Lin Zexu to destroy the opium. But for the British Parliament, this wasn't about drugs. It was about the holy principle of free trade. In 1840, the Nemesis arrived, an all-iron, steam-powered warship. It ignored the wind. It sailed upriver. The Qing wooden junks shattered like toys in front of it. The Battle of Zhenjiang. The Manchu banner garrison fought to the death. The commander, hailing, burned his wife and children alive. Then he committed suicide. It was a tragic desperation. No amount of courage or flesh and blood can stand against an industrial war machine. The saddest part, even in defeat, Emperor Dowager asked, "Where is this England? Can we get there by land?" They thought it was a border skirmish. They didn't realize it was the apocalypse of their civilization. If the Opium War was a flesh wound, the Taiping Rebellion in 1851 was an arterial bleed. This was the lethal blow. A failed scholar named Hong Xiuquan. He had a mental breakdown. He hallucinated that he was the second son of God, the younger brother of Jesus Christ. It sounds like a bad joke, but in a land of starving peasants, it sounded like hope. He started an uprising. In a few years, half of China was burning. This was the bloodiest civil war in human history. Estimates put the death toll between 20 and 30 million lives, more than World War I. To stop it, the Qing realized their 8 banners were useless. They had to allow Han warlords like Zheng Guofan to build private armies. The Qing survived. But the monopoly on violence was gone. The seeds of warlordism were planted. The ultimate irony? During this civil war, the Second Opium War began. The British and French marched into Beijing. They looted the Garden of Gardens, the Summer Palace, and they burned it to the ground. The fire raged for 3 days, burning not just a palace, but the last shred of the empire's dignity. After the beating, the Qing Empire had a brief recovery, the self-strengthening movement. Officials like Li Hongzhang tried to copy Western tech. They bought warships, built railways, opened factories. The Beiyang fleet was called number 1 in Asia. But it was doomed to fail because their operating philosophy was Chinese body, Western means. They wanted to run Windows software on a DOS system. They wanted modern weapons to protect a medieval system. Contrast this with Japan. The Meiji Restoration was a full system reinstall. In 1894, the Sino-Japanese War gave the answer, while the Japanese emperor starved himself to buy rapid-fire guns. Empress Dowager Cixi was diverting Navy funds to renovate the summer palace for her birthday. There is a marble boat sitting in the lake there. It is the perfect metaphor. Beautiful, expensive, rock solid, but it cannot move. It can only sink. In the Battle of the Yalu River, the Chinese fleet was annihilated. The Treaty of Shimonoseki cost 200 million taels of silver. Japan used that money to industrialize. China became a semi-colony. This time, the psychological collapse was total. Losing to the West was one thing. Losing to Japan, their former student, shattered their soul. By 1900, the system had gone insane. Cixi, the woman who ruled for 47 years, made one of the most reckless diplomatic moves in modern history. She used a superstitious cult, the Boxers, who claimed to be bulletproof. She wanted them to kill the foreigners. She declared war on 11 nations simultaneously. The result was inevitable. 20,000 foreign troops breached Beijing. Cixi grabbed the emperor and ran, dressed like a peasant, eating cornbread on the road. The Boxer Protocol. A fine of 450 million taels of silver. Why 450 million? The powers said, 1 tael for every Chinese person. Every citizen had to pay for the empress's stupidity. In 1908, Cixi and the emperor died within 24 hours, leaving a toddler, Poi, on the throne. In 1911, a dispute over railway rights broke out. October 10th, a gunshot in Wuchang. There was no epic final battle. Provinces just declared independence one by one. The machine that ran for 268 years didn't explode. It simply suffered a system failure and shut down. Looking back at the Qing, it perfected the agricultural civilization. It achieved maximum control, maximum stability. But that stability was a grave. It locked the civilization in a time capsule. When the world is running forward, standing still is suicide. No matter how powerful you are, you will be crushed by the wheels of history. History's crossroads appear in a flash. If God gave you a chance to go back to 1898, to be the young Emperor Guangxu, facing a controlling Empress Dowager, facing aggressive foreign powers, what would you do? Option A, the gambler, contact the army, launch a coup, kill Cixi, force the reforms, risk it all. Option B, the patient, wait, outlive Cixi, build your own power base slowly. Wait for the right time. Option C, the quitter, realize the system is doomed, abdicate early, take the money and live a happy life. Drop your choice, A, B, or C, and tell me why in the comments below. I'm reading every single one. See you in the next one.